All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So, today I have a story for you. And this story took place 40 years ago. And normally, as time fades away and the years go by, public interest surrounding an event tends to fade along with it. But with this case, the exact opposite happened. And this case takes place in a small, desolate farming community in the middle of nowhere called Skidmore, Missouri. Almost forgot the name. Skidmore, Missouri is in the northern tip of Missouri, like I said, in the middle of nowhere. Everybody that watches this channel knows I'm a sucker for a story about a desolate farming community in the middle of nowhere. Something about being far away from law enforcement and on your own has always fascinated me. Like, there's a story of a woman that lived in Skidmore at the time of this event where she needed help, and she really needed help. And she called law enforcement, and the sheriff came, but it took 3 days. And 3 days is a long time to kill when you're just waiting for the cavalry to show up to help. And during the early 80s, when this took place, Skidmore, Missouri had a problem. And his name was Ken Rex McElroy. And Ken Rex McElroy was 6'3", north of 300 pounds. A lot of it was in his gut, but still, it counts. And he had black hair that he would slick back and big black mutton chops. And he had this mean, blank-looking face and dead eyes that would just stare right through you. And they called him the town bully, and the paper would even use that word bully, but I don't know if it properly describes really Ken Rex as just a bully. I mean, he terrorized this small town. He would purposely scare women and children by just staring them down, and it's what he liked to do. So he would roll into town, maybe go to the bar. There's like a tiny little main street with a little tavern on it and a grocery store, but barely anything. And most of the time, the main street's completely empty because everybody's off on their farm working hard. So if you just drove into Skidmore, you'd probably be like, where is everyone? This is a ghost town. There's no one here. Oh, wait, there's one guy in denim overalls and a trucker cap. Oh, he's just buying something. Okay, he's leaving again. So I'm telling you that it really is just a small, sleepy town. They said that the only thing to do in Skidmore is to watch the grass grow and the cars rust. And so, just being that there's such a small amount of people and small amount of places, it really allowed Ken Rex McElroy to terrorize the whole town. And not only would he just do things like, stare at you and make you feel weird, he would, if you crossed him, burn your house down. Nothing completely psycho about that. He was married 5 times. I think he has close to 20 kids, and I'm pretty sure the average age of his wives was 14 when he married them. And like one time, a 13-year-old girl that I guess he was with was accusing him of rape, and he went to her parents and asked them, can you give us permission to get married, because then I can't be charged with rape? And as you can imagine, they said, no, we're not going to do that. We don't want, you're the town bully terrorist. Why would we give our 13-year-old daughter permission to marry you? We don't like you. You drive around in your scary truck. You always have a shotgun around. That's the other thing, is his big size. Someone in the town said, for as big and intimidating he is, you never hear of him getting into a fist fight. It's always with a gun. And so anyway, he asked the parents, hey, would you mind giving me permission to marry your 13-year-old daughter so I don't get charged with rape? They said no, and he burned their house down. They said the town people said there was a whole wave where he was burning people's houses and barns down, and I mean, you just can't have that. And then another story that's worth telling is this another guy was farming, normal day, sunshine, green pastures, and he hears gunshots. And so he goes, I'm going to go drive up the road just a bit just to see what's going on. And he drives up the road, and Ken Rex McElroy's in the middle of the road with a shotgun. And the guy's like, what's going on, Ken? And Ken accused him of something. I don't know if anyone really knows. He's like, you drove by my house in the car. And the guy goes, Ken, no, I didn't. I don't even have that car. I don't know what you're talking about. And then all of a sudden, Ken has the shotgun pointed at him. And you don't think in a million years that you're going to be staring down the barrel of a shotgun on a normal sunny day in Missouri, and all of a sudden Ken shoots the shotgun, blows the guy sitting in his truck, blows half the guy's gut and flesh all over the side of his car door. Somehow he makes it. Rushed to the hospital, he makes it. They try to bring that case to court for shooting the guy unprovoked with a shotgun. You would think, all right, that's the end of Ken McElroy, right? We're never going to see that guy again. The women and children can come out. You can open the shutters of the window. Well, two witnesses testified that Ken wasn't there, and no charges were brought, and it became very apparent that Ken had everyone in the Justice Department and anyone that would testify against him terrified for their life, to the point where they wouldn't do it. There was either someone, I think maybe even a law enforcement officer, that Ken straight up said, and he said this to a lot of people, he said, are you going to testify in a case against me? And the guy goes, yeah, Ken, I have to. I was there, I saw it, I have to do it. And Ken goes, okay, well, I believe anybody that tries to put me in the pen for life, that I believe in killing them. And he said that straight to the guy's face, and the guy's like, all right. And I was already shot the guy unprovoked and burned down a house of the parents of the 13-year-old. And so throughout this time period where he's terrorizing this tiny little town, he had 37 felony charges and 0 convictions. They would always no one would testify. The witnesses would say, you know what, I didn't see anything. And the whole thing kept going. And he drove this truck, always with his current 14-year-old wife, and he had a gun rack with his infamous shotgun hanging in perfect view for everybody. And he would drive into town to the point where everybody, once you saw and heard his truck, it was like the old Wild West days where everyone went inside, and, everybody had a Ken Rex story. Everything from like, yeah, he pointed a gun at me once, he pointed a gun at my mom twice. And, to this day, people say he had that little tiny community and Justice Department and everybody just scared half to death. And then the grocery store incident happened, where on the little main street where there's barely any businesses, a little bar, barely even a permanent structure, is the bar. It's one of those like prefab. And then there's a grocery store and like one other thing, but barely anything. And the mom and pop run grocery store, one day 2 kids come in, both Ken Rex McElroy's kids. They come in, and one's 15 and one is 4, and the 4-year-old steals a 2-cent piece of candy. Not the biggest deal in the world, but the woman that runs the grocery store says, hey, no, you can't steal the candy. Stealing is bad, and confronted the 4-year-old, where the 4-year-old went back and told her 13, 14-year-old mom, who was Ken Rex McElroy's wife, that the grocery store woman called her a thief, or the 4-year-old basically came home and was distraught and had been yelled at, and the Ken Rex McElroy's 14-year-old wife goes into the grocery store and goes, what, my 4-year-old came back and was upset, and she said that you yelled at her. And the grocery store woman was like, yeah, I mean, I didn't really yell at her, but I scolded her. She stole a piece of candy. And most moms or parents in that situation would be like, shoot, I'm sorry, let me pay for it. It's only 2 cents. Or, oh, you got the piece of candy back. Let me go talk to the kid. She's 4. She just is going through, would have handled it like that. But McElroy's wife just got furious, told her, you'll be sorry. You're about to meet my husband. And so she goes and gets Ken Rex and the husband, and he comes in doing his whole big, intimidating guy thing with the long black hair and mutton chops and mean face. And he looks exactly like, he pretty much should have been a mafia guy, like out here in New York. It looks like, almost like a wacky comedy movie of the 90s, like they plucked the psychotic muscle of the mafia, the guy that's like, man, this guy can just like kill somebody or break their kneecap and he doesn't even get sad. I would feel bad. He seems to just be able to do it. Hire this guy for all the bad stuff we got to do. It's almost like a wacky, zany movie where they plucked that guy up wearing all black and everything and just stuck him into a small town in Missouri, and then the movie is him just existing there. But anyway, he shows up to the grocery store all mean and nasty, and I think the grocery store owners are like, what is going on? I don't know. She stole a little 2-cent piece of candy. It's not a big deal. You're here. You got your shotgun. We see you. And Ken Rex didn't get over that. Like I said, I think he just liked being scary and he liked being intimidating. It was a big part of his personality. But he was really furious that his kid was accused of stealing a 2-cent piece of candy. And so he would park himself with his shotgun in the rack right out front of the grocery store. So when they got out, imagine just a desolate area, you're getting out of your grocery store to go home, locking it up, and there's Ken Rex just staring at you with his dead psycho eyes. And it's like, all right. And then they would go home, their little farmhouse. You got to get some rest. It's going to be a long day of running the grocery store the next day. And Ken would then park out in front of their house. Again, this is for a 2-cent piece of candy. And he would sit out in front of their house, and they would, see him and hear the truck, and he would shoot the shotgun up into the air. And they basically said it just was constant fear. It's no way to live. I mean, the only word is he just was terrorizing them, and there was no help from law enforcement. All the cases would disappear. And the town was slowly getting to the end of its pitiful rope. And then one day, the owner of the grocery store that's been harassed and followed, and he was been put in fear, and his family's been put in fear at their home, at their workplace. Ken's always there. He's sitting on the back deck of the grocery store taking a break, like the area where they would accept a delivery, it looked like. But it's behind the store. He's just sitting there watching the world go by. And Ken Rex drives up in his truck. Still, this is all over, a 2-cent piece of candy. And he drives up, and the grocery store owner said that he put his arm on the window and then slid his sleeve up, which is actually kind of funny. Slid his sleeve up to show his bicep, and he goes, "Want to fight?" And the grocery store owner, who's probably just exhausted, and is like, "I run a business. I don't have energy for this. Your whole thing throughout the day is I'm going to go be scary and a bully and intimidate, and then that will give me meaning. But I run a business, okay? I don't care. I have no reason to fight." That's all he said. He goes, "I have no reason to fight." And Ken Rex, all of a sudden, just like that other guy's pointing a shotgun at him. And just like the true, unstable psychopath that he is, he shoots the owner of the grocery store and blows half his neck off. Then Ken Rex gets in his truck, drives away. Someone working at the grocery store comes out, sees the poor old guy owner just going, it's shooting out, the blood's shooting out with every heartbeat that he has. He's gurgling, and all he's saying is, "It was McElroy. It was McElroy." Okay, and so now They rush the grocery store guy to the hospital. Obviously, he's fighting for his life. They're thinking, okay, surely now Ken will be arrested. He will be put away. This can't go on. This is totally crazy. And he bonded out that night. And so while the poor grocery store guy is still in the hospital fighting for his life, his neck, Ken Rex McElroy was already back at the bar, or I think there was a little pool hall or something, bragging about the whole thing, which really just hit the town hard. I mean, they really thought that was going to be it. And they're getting desperate, and everybody's horrified, and there's a thought of, even if you speak up, he'll just shoot you with a shotgun or burn your house down. And the thought is, what are we going to do? And so he's bonded out, and it takes a whole year until the trial to start. And that whole year, again, he's scaring people, and everyone that people say that they never carried a gun in the past are carrying a gun all the time just for Ken Rex McElroy. And I mean, he's really affecting these people's lives. And so a year goes by, and the trial starts. And for like I said, 37 felonies, and they all went nowhere. And a few people bit the bullet, even though they were terrified, and testified against him. And finally, after 10 years of fear and terror and violence, Ken Rex McElroy was convicted of shooting, blowing the dude's neck off. And so again, the town thought, okay, finally the problem is over, and we can go back to our peaceful small town life. Well, another bizarre circumstance happened, and so technically Ken got 30 days to appeal the case. His fast-talking, work-for-cash lawyer had the appeal ready right away. As soon as they found him guilty, he put the appeal in right away. And then he convinced the judge, while the appeal was getting decided on, to let him bond out again. So there were people that went from Skidmore to watch the trial that were, sitting in the courtroom just wanting to see him be put away and let the fear end, that when the judge agreed, yeah, he can bond out until the appeal, Ken Rex beat a lot of the people that were there in the courtroom to watch back to the city. So imagine that feeling. You think it's over. You think the shotgun psycho is going to be gone. Your wife, your kids, your family, you think is going to be safe. He was convicted, and all of a sudden, he's bonded out of, I thought he was convicted, and like we saw maybe with like the Smollett case and other cases where something totally bizarre happens and everyone goes, wait a second, what is that? I've never heard that before. They said, no, this is common. They put out newspaper articles. No, actually bonding out after you're convicted is very common. And with all those, when they're like, trust us, it's very common, there was a lot of people, it's like, well, I've lived a good chunk of a life and I've never heard it. So if it's so common, what's going on? And you got to think, imagine the people that testified against him. They're thinking, all right, he's burned down people's houses for much less. He's shot people in the face with shotguns for much less than that. I mean, the town was freaking out for good reason. And Ken Rex McElroy loved every second of it. A week after that happened, he's still out. He shows up to the bar with a big long rifle with a fixed bayonet on the end, and he goes and sits in the corner with the thing just sitting there. I mean, he really loved sending shivers up the spine of this town. Well, the town decided, if the justice system isn't going to help us, what is this? 37 felonies, not charged of one. He has every single person intimidated that works. No one's testifying. The people that are don't have any protection. He's out. And so they said, we need to have a meeting. And pretty much every adult in town was called for this meeting on Main Street in this big town hall type room. and the sheriff was there, and like I said, pretty much every adult in the town was there, and it was early morning, and no one to this day really knows what was said or what happened at that meeting. There was a couple snapshots, black and white photos. You can see everybody talking, and then the meeting is adjourned, still mid-morning. When the meeting's over, the sheriff drives out of town, coincidentally, right as Ken Rex McElroy is driving in town to go to the bar. So like I said, the sheriff was at the meeting, and then he takes off out of town. Ken Rex gets to the bar with his 14-year-old wife. They go in. People that spill out of the meeting, I think maybe a dozen or so people, see that Ken Rex went into the bar, and 12 people go into the bar to have a little talk with Ken Rex. And they go up to him at the bar and they say, "Ken, you leave this bar right now and you get out of town. You hear us? You get out of town." And Ken Rex McElroy took his 14-year-old wife. They said, all right. They got up, they went out, and they got into his truck, which is parked directly in front of the little bar, facing the bar. Now, there's a discrepancy. Some say there was a couple dozen people out there because the meeting adjourned, and they all just sort of walked out into the main, the bar's right there, the truck is right there. Some say it was a couple dozen people. Some say it was everyone in the meeting, somewhere around 50 or 60 people, but there's a crowd out there. And so Ken Rex McElroy gets in his truck. His 14-year-old wife gets in the passenger side of his truck. And somewhere between 1 and 4 people from behind just opened up on the truck and blew Ken Rex McElroy's head off and just filled him with bullets. And as they're shooting Ken, one guy yells at the 14-year-old wife, "Get out of the car." So you got to think she's sitting in there, and right next to her in the driver's seat, she's watched her husband's head get blown off. And so she gets out. They're still shooting Ken. One opens the door and still shooting him. Well, his big cowboy booted foot, he had started the truck, but it was still in park. His big cowboy booted foot, when he slumps over and dies, floors the gas pedal. So it goes from, between 1 and 4, maybe even 6 guys from behind shooting at the truck, bow, bow. That noise to telling the wife, "Get out of there." There's between a dozen and 60 people watching, and now he's just, the gas pedal is just pinned, and the engine is just going full rev, just and it's going, and it starts to smoke, and his wife is going, "Oh my God, my husband is hurt," and the engine is and it's smoking, and it's more smoking, and it's a chaotic scene, and then finally the engine blows. And it's total silence. And Ken Rex, the town bully, the town terrorist, the shotgun psycho, whatever you want to call him, is slouched dead in his truck, the infamous truck that scared everyone, just the sight of it. And so much blood is running out of the door of the truck that it's running down the street. And everybody just went back to their business. Everybody went back to their farm, and Ken Rex slumped over in his truck, just sat there all day, all night. I guess finally someone that felt bad out of respect went and covered him up, but the town took care of the problem. And Ken Rex McElroy's wife, the 14-year-old, is going, "I know who it was. I was there. I am a witness." And so they do, the local law enforcement, you got to remember the sheriff was at that meeting. The local law enforcement does an investigation, and nothing comes from it. And they're going, well, she's going, "I know who it was. I can tell you." And they're like, "Nah, there's not enough evidence to bring charges. Sorry." And then, that isn't going to sit well. That starts making the news. This guy was executed on Main Street and no one's even been arrested. So then they bring in this task force of law enforcement from the greater area and bigger cities, because it's like, is the sheriff in on this? So they bring in a task force and they start questioning everyone in town, and nobody saw a thing. They bring in all these people that were at the meeting and that were standing right there when it happened, and everybody goes, I don't know. I was looking to the right, and I didn't see anything. And, there's articles being written, and it's gripping the country, all over the country, of people going, what do you mean? This guy was shot and now no one is being arrested. And it kind of seems like it was the whole town and the whole thing's building, and and I think what truly fascinates people about this story is that 40 years have gone by and they kept the secret. No one spilled. After the task force was brought in, then the 14-year-old wife, and the lawyer called the FBI, and the FBI came in to do an investigation. And every time there was a new task force or a new investigation, the feds are here. Everybody thought, all right, here's the time when someone's going to crack, when someone's going to say, you know what, this was the wrong way to handle it. They shouldn't have killed him. And this is the time where they're going to talk. And it just never happened. Just the FBI subpoenaed pretty much every adult in town, and something like 90% of them or something said, they go, all right, what did you see when you look to the right? And they say, oh, I saw the bar and I saw Ken Rex McElroy's truck. And they say, okay, well, what did you see when you looked to the left? And like 90% of them had the same exact answer that said, I didn't look to the left that morning. And like I said, it's pretty mind-blowing that not one person with all those witnesses out there throughout the years didn't spill. And as people got old and were on their deathbeds and died, some rumors came out, but nothing, the feds came up empty-handed, just like the task force, and a part of it was the task force and the FBI both put some evidence together, and they had the eyewitness, Ken Rex McElroy's wife. She was willing to testify, and every time they would give the packet of evidence that they did come up with, complete with her eyewitness testimony, she's being like, I saw him do it. Remember? I was just in the thing. The prosecutor of Skidmore, Missouri, would decide, I don't think it's a tight enough case. I'm not going to bring charges against the guys that they think did the shooting. And so now the debate is that true? Did he really think that? Or just like how Ken Rex had the Justice Department freaked out, I think a lot of theories are that even with the evidence in the eyewitness testimony, the local prosecutor knows that he would have a mob on his hands. If he brought charges against, the 2, 3, whatever, 4 guys, or maybe just the one guy that they had enough evidence on, he would have a serious problem on his hands. And so the whole thing just kept going and kept gaining interest. And to this day, no one has been charged with the death of Ken Rex McElroy. I'm going to cut it off there. I hope you guys had a good week. I will see you next time. Why? Stiving why. Shum.